Hey guys, Felicia here. Before we start the show, I want you to do me a quick favor. Can you hit that like button? Can you hit that subscribe button? Can you leave me a written review? If you've been listening to this show, you love this show. If you've had a coaching session with me and you rocking with me and this show has helped you, please let the people know. Please write a review. This helps other people know about the show. Also, go share this with somebody. Don't keep all this goodness to yourself. Because I'm telling you, like even in today's episode, gems are about to be dropped. Don't hoard the gems. Share. The more gems you share, the more gems you'll get. It's the law of the universe. Okay? All right. Now let's start the show. Welcome to the Trill NBA Show. I'm your host, Felicia Rose Anuha, aka the Trillest NBA you will ever know. And I'm here to help you survive and thrive in corporate America by giving you the truth and being as real as only I can be. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am so freaking excited today because we have a very special guest in the house, Jessica Guzik of the Art of Speaking Up podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Listen, so we're recording this way ahead of time, but today I was a guest on Jessica's podcast and she dropped that episode this morning and I listened to it and I cried. I was like, oh my God, this is so great. We're so dope. And then we just happened to schedule it. It just worked out that you're here today on the Trill NBA Show.
It feels very full circle because I also remember when I started my show, I found your show.
Really?
And there weren't that many podcasts in our niche.
No.
So I had known about you. And then when you reached out, years later, I was like, I've always wanted to have her on my show. So it just feels like something's happening.
Yes. I love it. And we're both in LA. So kismet. Everything happens for a reason. Today, we're going to talk about networking. As you've been listening to the show, I've been focusing on how to get us more network, how to build more relationships. Jessica, in her own right, is a career coach. She is a corporate warrior, guys. She is one of us. And so we're going to talk about networking today. But first, I want y'all to know, who is Jessica Guzik? Jessica, just give us the elevator pitch.
Yes.
Because we're corporate. So...
Of course. So currently, I'm a podcaster and a full-time career coach.
Woo-hoo.
Thank you.
You got out.
And so it feels so weird to say that. It still doesn't totally feel real in my brain. Before that, I was in the corporate world. I actually thought that I would be a lawyer, and I went to law school and realized that I didn't want to be a lawyer and went into corporate strategy.
Bet.
And I did the corporate thing for almost a decade, started my podcast during that decade, mostly just as a passion project. Similar to you, I had things that I felt like I had to share. I had to get it out of me.
Yes.
And so I started the show, and I actually liked my corporate career. And I wasn't one of those people that was trying to get out really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. But my show it felt like the secret lover that I was having an affair with on the side that I just enjoyed more and was always waiting to get to work on. So I eventually left my corporate job and took my podcast full time.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because I'm yet to be a full-time podcaster. I'm always working on other stuff. It's not that I don't love corporate. I think what I hate are corporate politics.
Oh, yeah. Like the BS.
Yeah.
Yeah. All this stuff that doesn't have to be there.
Yeah. It's unnecessary. We're all here in this building to add shareholder value and get paychecks. Why can't we focus, people?
Yeah. I think that we share that perspective. I remember my first job was at McKinsey. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things that I was learned, in a way, you get indoctrinated when you enter into these corporate environments. Right. But I was indoctrinated with the idea that when a team comes together in a healthy way, we can create something really cool. And so I approached corporate from that angle of it could be really good. We can each have our thing that we're good at and we can help each other. And I just remember having moments where like someone on the team would get stuck and they'd be like, oh no, I have to pull an all-nighter. And the team would come together and be like, no, let's divide it up. Like, you're not doing that.
Right.
And so for me, it's like, that's what I hoped it could be or wanted it to be, is like this place where everyone gets to come together under a shared mission and it feels really good.
Hold on, real talk. Pause. Because I don't know if y'all heard. So not only does she have a JD, but where'd you get your JD?
I got it at Columbia.
We're going to talk about the pedigree. I just want y'all to know, because I don't fuck with just anybody. Okay? And then let's talk about McKinsey. So for those who don't know, McKinsey is like the top, and I know the Bain people will be mad that I said that. But like McKinsey is like the top management consulting firm, right? Like if you are a McKinsey consultant, like that means something in the corporate world. How long were you at McKinsey?
About 2 years.
Yeah. So basically for those 2 years, she could probably go into your company and be somebody VP. Just real talk. Let's just be real about it. So like you have this pedigree and then you left McKinsey and then you did corporate strategy for the likes of...
I did Pandora for about 5 years, and then I went into Disney. Yeah.
Okay. I just want people to understand who I associate with, mostly. I'm gonna...
You're embarrassing me. You're making me
because she's so humble. And that's the other thing. And I think, it's so funny. Your podcast, The Art of Speaking Up, you're supposed to big up yourself, Jessica.
I know. This is something that I kind of like explore with my coach and comes up a lot in my own personal growth work. I have a tendency to hide some of my academic achievements and some of my professional achievements. I have a tendency to avoid the name dropping component of it. And it's like something that I'm figuring out.
Oh, no. But you live in LA.
Yeah, I know, right? You would think. But I'm not one of those LA people. Like, I'm not name droppy. Like, it's a balance, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I had so much privilege that led me onto the path that I was on. And so I'm still kind of like reconciling that a little bit.
Girl, you better own that. You better own it all. Listen. If my daddy wasn't the person he is, if he was a good father, like, I'd be rich because my father is like really, really wealthy. He's a businessman in Nigeria. Like, I should have got that, but my parents divorced. But I'm telling you, if I had it, I'd use it all the time. I'd be walking around talking about, I'm a Nigerian princess.
You'd be name dropping.
I would be name dropping everything, all the things.
You can help me practice in LA. Like, we can do LA name dropping together.
Because why not? Like, but here's the deal. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is that we have both worked for some behemoths of corporations, right? Like I worked for Coca-Cola, Kellogg Foods, Frito-Lay, PepsiCo, just these giants in their industries. And so you working for McKinsey is like me working for Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, right? So like people need to understand we have been through some things.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I'm happy to talk about all of the things that I've been through. There are a lot of them.
We have been through some things. But today, I really want to focus on, because that's what we're talking about for this month's episode series, is networking.
Yeah.
And I want to understand, how do you coach your clients? Like, what is your take on networking, especially when you're working in like these huge organizations?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest foundational pieces is the idea that it's more impactful than your quality of work. And it feels painful to say those words because it shouldn't be,
right.
But it is. We want to understand the rules of the game, right? Like I love your checkers chess analogy, right? So like in chess, I guess networking would be, is the king the most powerful pawn? It would be one of the really powerful pawns. Right. I'm not a chess player, but I think it took a while for it to click in my mind that you can do really good work and be really smart and really care about your deliverables, and you will not advance as quickly as someone who is less strong in those areas but has really strong relationships with people in positions of influence. And I think it makes sense that we don't expect that, because in school, it's all about you put in the work, you get the grade. There is no networking element until we enter into the professional world. And then all of a sudden it matters more. And what I see a lot with my clients is that they identify either as introverts, or maybe they would describe themselves as being nerdy, and they feel like they're not naturally equipped to network. And one thing that I really try to work with them on, and that I really try to message with people, is that you might feel that way. And I don't want to deny that it might feel hard, but there's like no such thing as a human who can't connect with other humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about seeing that like the people around you are humans just like you. A lot of them have the same insecurities you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that everyone around you is so charming and so perfect and so extroverted and you're the weirdo. Even if you feel that way, that's not usually the case. And that you can actually build genuine relationships that feel good for you to build and that help you further your career.
Yes. And that was the whole point of why I wanted to come on your show and talk about, this art of speaking up. And I think when it comes to networking, it's hard when you feel like you're different.
Yeah.
Everybody feels like they're different, though. Everybody feels a level of not fitting in. And the most confident people you see walking around, or at least they appear to be confident, that's a lot of times they're masking it too, because nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's making it up. I mean, we have a certain level of knowledge, yes. And we then take experiences and like projects, you learn from that project. You take that learning to the next project. But every project has its own curveball.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you're working on, all your day-to-day work, how you view what's happening in the business. There's blind spots. Everybody has them. And I don't care if you're the CEO or you're the new entry-level assistant analyst, right? That's coming into the organization. Like, you are going to have blind spots. There are things you don't know. There's always new things to learn. And for me, I've always taken networking as an opportunity to be intellectually curious.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful because I think a lot of people, when they think of networking, they think it's going to be icky.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I have to pretend like I care what that person did this weekend.
So, what'd you do this weekend? Yeah, that's cool.
And for me, I had a natural curiosity more about the roles and the teams of different people. Like, what do you all do over there? Like,
right.
I have no idea. And so I use that to build professional relationships because I genuinely wanted to ask those questions.
Right.
It doesn't have to look one kind of way. It doesn't have to be like,
So, can I see that picture of your cat? Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, if that is the conversation you want to have, great. Like, I do want to see people's cat pictures and I want to share mine. But the point is, like, you can connect in the way that feels good to you, and letting your curiosity lead you, I think, is so powerful.
Yeah. And did you ever have a time where you had a networking, like, faux pas at work?
Oh, for sure. It's just a question of like remembering one because I've probably repressed it into the basement of
I'm sorry
my
to
memory.
bring up your corporate trauma, but...
Oh, no, that's okay. I had a really big faux pas in an interview. I wasn't in the door yet, but my interviewer asked me to like come with a business case and a business proposition, and I froze. And all I could think about was like I had been at the San Diego Zoo seeing a panda exhibit. So I was like, oh, well, like maybe we can look at the financial profitability of the panda exhibit. And this like McKinsey partner like looks at me like this bald 50-year-old man, like with this stern gaze is like looking at me, and I'm talking about pandas. And I'm like, oh my God, I think I picked the wrong topic. I think I've just like fulfilled all the negative stereotypes that he has about me, that I'm like ditzy. So I'm a little scarred by that exchange. It's not pure networking, but I'm sure one will come to mind because I've had a lot of faux pas.
Yeah, I think my biggest faux pas was I was always on this mission to try to be the CEO.
Okay.
So I was always trying to figure out how to talk to these white men that I know they was looking at me crazy. Why is it that old white men look at you crazy?
I don't think they know how to look. You know what I mean? Like they're lacking the core skill of looking at you in a normal way.
Right. It's always the 50 plus, and they are all gray or bald. And then they looking at you crazy, and it's like, sir, I'm the future. Like,
what was your faux pas?
Oh, my faux pas was I was always trying to find a sponsor. You can't find a sponsor. The sponsor has to pick you, but I didn't know that. So I was just told, you got to get a sponsor. And the only people I knew that could be sponsors were in the C-suite. So I'd be running up there after the town hall.
Oh my gosh. See, to me, though, I'm like, that's badass.
With nothing to say, no strategy, no thought, okay, you get to the CEO, what the fuck you gonna say?
I still think it's badass.
It's badass if you've thought it all the way through. The only thing I'm like is, I want your job. Like, what?
Yeah, I guess like you get there and you're
Can
like,
you groom me for your job? Like, no, that's not what you're supposed to say.
Oh man, I thought of my faux pas.
Okay.
It came. It's safe to surface. So the CEO of our company had a friend's son who was coming to visit the company, and I was appointed as the person that was going to welcome them in and give them a tour.
Oh, that's high visibility.
And, well, yeah, but high visibility is good when you get it right, but not when you get a faux pas. So it was the first Monday after Christmas and winter break. And so I was on like a 2-week stretch of not being in a work routine.
Right.
So I forgot to set my alarm.
Oh, no.
And then the CEO's assistant, or I think chief of staff, like called me and I was in bed and was like, the friend is in the lobby. Where are you? And I'm not someone who's late. I don't sleep through things. Like I'm very, like I show up on time all the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, the one time that this happened, this happened was when I was asked to do this favor for like the CEO's friend's son. But what I'll say is I survived. And I think we all have moments like these oh crap moments. It's the worst feeling in the pit of your stomach. And like I've never had one where I didn't survive, like where it wasn't eventually okay.
Please say that. Yes.
Yeah.
You're gonna be okay.
Yes. Like, am I happy that that happened?
No.
Was I kicking myself a lot? Mm-hmm. Yes. And like, here we are having this conversation.
Yes. So we're going to take a quick break to big up Black Travel Box. Y'all already know what it is. And when we get back from the break, Jessica and I are going to talk about the actual, like, you want to go talk to the CEO? This is what you say. We're going to talk about that when we come back from the break. Hey there, travel enthusiasts. Are you tired of struggling to find hair and skincare products that cater to your unique needs while on the go? Look no further than blacktravelbox.com. Black Travel Box is your one-stop shop for travel-sized natural hair and skincare products, specifically curated for Black travelers. No more settling for generic products that don't work for your hair type or skin tone. Whether you're jet setting to a tropical island or embarking on a cross-country road trip, Black Travel Box has you covered with their convenient and TSA-approved travel kit. Plus, by supporting Black Travel Box, you're not just getting high-quality products, but you're also supporting a Black-owned business that is dedicated to promoting inclusivity in the travel industry. So, travel in confidence, style, and grace with Black Travel Box. Visit blacktravelbox.com now and get ready to slay your next trip. Don't let your beauty routine suffer while you explore the world. And hey guys, let me tell you, Black Travel Box products are amazing, especially that body butter. Listen, I got a promo code for you. Use the code JETSET. That's JETSET, all caps, JETSET. And you can get a discount from Black Travel Box because of who? The Trillis MBA. Happy travels, beautiful people. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, guys, we are back. I am here. I'm so excited. I'm like a little kid in the candy shop with Jessica. I love talking to other career coaches who have been in the trenches of corporate. Jessica, if you didn't remember, the Art of Speaking Up podcast, go check it out. There's a link in my show notes. Definitely a podcast if you are in your head or you need encouragement. Jessica, your podcast is so encouraging.
Oh,
that's what I
you.
love about your podcast. Like, if you're trying to figure out, like, why am I not having the confidence that I need? Because that is what you need in corporate. You need to just be confident. You need to be confident in the fact that you don't know shit.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Yeah.
Be confident about it.
Yeah.
Be confident in the fact that you can figure it out. right?
Yes.
And then listen to our podcast so you can get like how to do things that we have been through and now we can tell you.
Yeah, that we messed up.
Yes, because that's why we started our show.
Exactly. Save you some suffering, hopefully.
And so now, what I learned, now first you tell me what you've learned about when you do want to talk to those higher up people, senior leaders, you want to connect with them, you're trying to get visibility. What is the number one thing you would say to do?
The number one thing, I think it's not what people might expect, but I suggest that when you're looking at job opportunities, this is the number one thing that you focus on. We tend to focus on the shininess of the brand, how exciting the work is, and I don't see people focusing on what is the executive exposure and visibility, what is the upward trajectory. I say this to a lot of my clients, and I believe in it so strongly. I will take a boring, random, B2B, unsexy job that has like tons of visibility and upward mobility like any day over the fun, exciting consumer brand or startup. So for me, I was like, it doesn't need to be shiny. If it is, great. But this is a lesson that I learned at McKinsey because every few months you would rotate projects and they would ask what I wanted to work on. And I would pick the project that sounded the most interesting. And it took me longer than I wish it did to realize that what I should have been looking at was the teams and what teams were going to nurture me and support me. And I should have said, I want that really boring project that no one else wants. Put me on that one because the leader of that team has an amazing reputation.
Exactly, because the leader of that team has the juice.
Yes.
And there's a reason why he's on that boring project, but you don't know.
100%.
And this is where you have to be able to read your organization's culture and how they operate. I think this is what we both help our coaching clients with a lot.
Yeah.
That is a big one, right? Because once you really understand the game that you're playing in your chessboard, then you can figure out how to move in these ways. And I would say for me, one of the things I always tell people is that you want to build your relationship wall. And you have to do this. You have to network to do that. And you have to network to understand who has the juice. And so what networking is, and we've talked about this in previous shows this month, basically it's building relationships. It's building those connections, those professional connections, getting people to see your humanity so that then you can show them who you are and your work and what you do. Your work is secondary. People want to know who you are first. Like, what's the core of you? Can I trust you?
Yeah.
Like, are you fun to work with? Or do I want to work with you? It is all about building likability.
Yeah.
And so I really want to encourage people to not be afraid to talk to higher level people and the people who you recognize in the organization. You know, your boss's boss's boss or your boss's boss's peers even, right? Or your boss's peers. There's somebody in there. They're all in the rooms where you should be talked about, and they're the people that can talk about you. But if they don't know who you are,
yes,
they're not talking about you. But it's scary, right?
It's so scary because I think it's one of those things that brings the insecurities to the surface. Like there are certain things that just it all rushes to the surface. And I think also because corporate is so hierarchical, there's the org chart and the lines and this person reports to this. I think we forget that we can do whatever we want. There are rigid org structures, but there aren't rigid rules in terms of how you collaborate. And so I would encourage people to try to be messy and entrepreneurial and become aware that you can reach out to any person at any time and set up any meeting you want. You might not get a yes every single time, but if you get a yes half the time or a third of the time or a fifth of the time, that's still amazing progress in sitting down with people who might be able to hook you up with a really good position. It might be 7 years from now, but when it happens, you're going to be so glad that you started cultivating that relationship.
Right. So now let's talk about building these coffee chats. Because I tell people all the time, break bread, drink coffee, sit down.
Yeah.
Right? And so how do you help your clients plan? Like, what do you tell them? What are some strategies you give them to say, if they're in finance and they're like, I really want to connect with the CFO, but I'm just a finance manager and Like,
Yeah.
so what would you tell me if I
Ooh.
came to you with that?
Okay, so I would say there's a couple ways in. I think you can go like the bold, direct path and make the ask and be super humble. I will say sometimes I see like trends out there, and a little bit of a trend I'm seeing is kind of like an entitlement vibe. I don't know if you've seen that or felt that.
These TikTokers, I'm like, y'all gonna get fired. That's what.
Yeah. But like if you are reaching out to someone who has a lot of responsibilities, none of which are you, I think it's important to be humble. You're asking them to give you their time, which they don't have a lot of extra time to give. So I think that is super important in my opinion. But I also think a really nice in is to get more entrepreneurial about your work and about identifying whether it's growth opportunities or it depends where you work in the company. But there's no leader or executive that's going to say no when they sniff opportunity. And so I think one of the most effective ways to get time and attention that could then lead to those coffee chats is to identify opportunity and be surfacing it, because that's an easier yes to get that relationship going. And then the coffee chat becomes an organic byproduct of that. They know who you are versus you're just someone reaching out. But I will say, like, the cold outreach can result in things. And I think it's super important just to make the ask if you want to, because if you get rejected, you're going to survive and you're going to be more confident because of it.
Right. So from a marketing standpoint, what I tell my coaching clients is the first thing you got to think about, what's in it for them to meet with you?
So good. Yeah.
What's in it for them? Because like you said, these people, they have 50 million people trying to get their attention because they are in the spotlight of the organization. They are the Beyoncés of the organization, though Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle, right? So like, why would they want to spend time with you? How are you going to be additive to them? I think a lot of times people take networking as something I have to do in order to advance myself. And when you have that perspective, you're going to get nowhere because you've centered the wrong thing, which is just your agenda.
Yes.
When you really should be trying to figure out what's their agenda.
100%.
Because if you can help them in their agenda, your agenda gets taken care of, which is to get visibility, get more opportunities, grow in the organization, gain influence.
Yeah.
You gain influence by sharing information.
100%. And this is where your agenda and their agenda overlaps.
Exactly.
Because if you can create value, that helps them and that helps you. I think with leaders, if you think about it, I almost imagine them as like their hands are tied. They can't actually execute.
No.
Right? So if they spot someone who's executing some interesting looking stuff over there, all of a sudden they're going to take interest in you and they're going to want to amplify what it is you're doing. Another piece that I would share that I think really helped me in my corporate career is I think it's worth getting really good at crisp, clear communication.
Oh, baby.
Yes.
Say that.
Super polished slides, super insightful, super top down. Because what happens is you show those to your boss and your boss starts to get impressed and be like, oh, this is going to make me look good. Maybe I'll actually bring you to some of my conversations because you're this little puddle of smarts that I want to bring around.
Right. You say it better than I do.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to make me look good. And oh my gosh. So I think trying to create that dynamic with your boss where you're like this well of information and insights and crisp communication, then they will have to bring you into more things. And then you will start meeting other executives at their level. That was really huge for me.
So you mentioned a term top down, and I just want to clarify because some of my listeners, they work in big organizations that are like, you know, government and hospital. So some of these corporate words they might not have. So can you explain top down for everybody?
Top down just means that when you're communicating, you share the big idea before you get into any details. And specifically when you're talking to leaders and executives, it means you start with the high level business objective. So you would never say, hey, I want to walk you through my hiring plan. You would say, hey, I know that we're interested in hitting this ambitious target for Q3. I have a hiring plan that I think will get us there. Can I walk you through it? So that would be like a top-down way of setting your agenda.
Oh, that was so good.
Oh, thanks.
Y'all owe both of us money if you're listening to this. That was a good nugget.
Oh.
And that communication is so important. So now let's say I get to go sit with the CFO. Now I'm going to have coffee. What the fuck do I say? How do I prepare?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to pee myself.
Yes. Okay. So one of my favorite questions is like, what is on your mind or what keeps you up? What are you like mulling over and thinking about? Another question that I really like, this is more for like a cross-functional exec, but I really like to ask, where do you see the opportunities for value creation or the potential pitfalls across our two teams? I think that's a really interesting window in. And if it's the CEO, you could say, okay, well, me as a strategist, I've been working a lot with the product team. Like, where do you see the biggest opportunities in those two teams coming together? I like to get a sense of where they think the value is and also where they are like worried, like where they think some of the pitfalls are. And I think like also coming with ideas, it doesn't have to be like a project that you're going to start tomorrow. But it could be like, hey, I keep coming back to this idea or keep thinking about this. What do you think? Maybe it'll resurface a few months later, right? So if you have thoughts on initiatives that you think could be interesting or that you feel curious about, you can seed the conversation. It doesn't mean you have to like, again, launch it the next day. But I think it's good to have these business objective related conversations because then they start to see you as a thought leader and they're like, oh, she's thinking about how we can go bigger. And then you planted that seed. And then maybe a few months later, they have a moment where they're like, I really need someone who will understand this thing on this altitude. Oh, that girl I had coffee with, she might be good for this. So it's just like showing that you're thinking about how to move the ball forward.
Right. And that you understand the bigger picture of the business and how that relates to what you do. And if you don't understand the big picture from their perspective, ask them.
Yeah.
Right? Like say, hey, and this is where I love to tell my coaching clients when you're trying to network higher up to, attract that sponsorship. I tell them to be a bit of a tattletale. Not in a negative way. Don't ever be negative. Be super positive about it. But like, let them know what's going on. Because one thing you got to understand, everybody's managing up. And if this person is 3 to 4, 5 levels above you, they've gotten telephone games of information at that point. Like, they don't know the shit show that you know. And they know that you know. And they're wondering if you're going to tell them. And how you tell them is very important. Don't complain.
Hey, dummy, she said not to complain.
That's a waste of time. It's not solution focused. But if you say, hey, we have an inefficiency here, and here in the business. It's not anybody's fault. I have an idea, but I'd love to get your thought leadership on it. One thing I know about senior leaders, especially men, they have their egos are just, they love when you bring them in. They love when you ask. And the great thing is they'll have skin in the game. So now if you're in a room fighting for resources, you can say, well, I talked to Bob about this and he's the one that helped me craft this. And everybody's like, oh, you talked to Bob? She talked to Bob, this bitch. Like,
it's so true. Yeah, it's like the stroking of the ego. Yeah. I think that is such a genius piece of advice because people love to be asked for their thought leadership. Yeah.
So if you get them to give their thinking and you use what they say, now be prepared to use what they say. Because now if you ask them their opinion and then it gets back to them that you didn't do what they said, now you look like Boo-Boo the Fool.
Yeah, that's true. Or you at least need to close the loop. If it really turns out that you can't go in their proposed direction, you want to just close that out and let them know. And also let them know that you still value their leadership and support.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then ask them, is there a blind spot though here? Right?
Yes. That's such a good question. Yeah. You'll almost always learn something, I feel like, when you ask that question.
Yeah. It's tricky. And I want people to understand we're talking from a corporate lens, but any organization with people and hierarchy and leaders and they're making money. So this applies to nonprofits. This applies to people who work in school districts, like a lot of teachers go through, oh my God, I would never want to be a teacher.
Sounds hard.
You think we've seen BS? At least we got paid.
Yeah. I always say this to my partner. I'm like, teachers should be paid the most.
Yes.
Like, they're shaping the next generation of our society. They should be the most highly compensated. This is so backwards. I just feel like education is so important.
It is, but we so don't show that we value it by how we support schools. I mean, we literally play the lottery. That's where a lot of schools are getting money, from people playing the lottery. What are we doing?
I know. It is really so frustrating. And then on the flip side to that is that you get to corporate, and a lot of the stuff we talked about in school is not helpful at all. And I'm like, wait a minute. How come no one told me some, I guess this is why we have our podcast, right? But why did no one tell me some very basic things that would have saved me pain and suffering?
Yes. Like, one of the biggest lessons I've learned when it comes to networking is making sure you have the meeting before the meeting. Do not go in a meeting with a senior leader that you need sign off on whatever, and that person hasn't seen it before. Do not go in a big room with a bunch of people, because now if that person strikes you down and says that's a bad idea, even though they don't have all the information you have and you don't have time to lay out the whole 3-hour explanation because you only had 5 minutes to pitch or whatever this meeting was for.
Yeah.
Now you're stuck, because now that person's not going to walk it back, because now they got to save face in front of everybody. No mean no, I said no. That's the situation you're putting them in. So don't ever do that. And it's always a good in for networking. Like, when you say, hey, and this is why you make friends with all the admins.
Oh, yes.
Hey, Bob is going to lead this meeting and I'm supposed to present this, but I want to get him a pre-read. I want to show him ahead of time. I want to make sure he's aligned before we even go in this meeting. Can you give me 15 minutes on his calendar? Because he's going to have to say yay or nay, and I want him to have all the information.
Yeah. And if you put yourself in Bob's shoes, it becomes a lot easier to see how important it is. Like, imagine showing up at a meeting and someone puts up a slide that impacts you or puts you on the hook for something and you've never seen it before. Like, imagine how that would feel. It would not feel good. It'd be like, wait, what is happening?
Yeah.
So, of course, the stakeholder is going to get defensive. I would expect them to, because they need to be a part of something that impacts them, particularly if it's being shared among a group of their peers or maybe even their leader.
Yes.
Like, I think about it also just like as an act of thoughtfulness, right? Like, I don't want to put someone in that stressful situation.
Right.
I want this to feel good. And like you said, you will get into really sticky situations that could be fully avoided with one conversation.
Right. So have the conversation, people. Have the conversation.
Yeah. And don't not have it because you feel scared to reach out.
Exactly.
Like, that's just a habit. It'll get more comfortable. The more you do the scary outreach and you get messy and you set up the meeting, even though you're not sure, are they too busy? Am I annoying? Am I supposed to? Whatever. The more you just push forward, all of those thoughts will just get quieter over time, and it'll just become part of the way you work.
I love this.
Yeah. Well, I share it because I'm an overthinker. I get stuck in my head. I'll spend a billion years just thinking, should I reach out to this person? Should I include that person? Like, and in the end of the day, one of the most powerful lessons I've learned is just go. Just take action. Do the thing. If you did it wrong, go course correct. But don't stay in one place.
I love that. I love it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back for the break, well, hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I will be employed, maybe. We'll see. But I'm going to have Jessica give me a mini coaching session. I'm not paying her for it.
Woo! I'm excited.
But I'm going to have her tell me what things I should be thinking through as I'm networking for my new job, and I'm trying to change industries.
Okay.
So when we get back from the break, guys. Hey guys. So I hope you're enjoying this episode. I am. Keep listening to the Trill MBA show to get these great nuggets. But in the meantime, head over to patreon.com/Trill MBA show and sign up to become a Trill MBA show Patreon. We love your support for the show. Being a Patreon, you're going to get some exclusive content. You're also going to get some free coaching. You're going to get some other freebies when we start doing live shows. So listen, you don't want to miss out. So if you love this show and you want to support us, go to patreon.com/TrillingBA show and join our Patreon today. All right, guys, back to this awesome show. Hey guys, we are back from the break. I am here with Jessica Guzik. Am I saying that right? Guzik.
Yeah.
Why didn't you correct me? I'm saying it wrong. I done said it wrong this whole time.
So I don't know if this is something you've experienced.
You said my name right.
But I have a highly mispronounced name, and my coping mechanism is to not correct people.
No.
This is a loaded topic, but like I just let people because I don't know. It just doesn't bother me that much.
It bothers me.
Yeah.
You gonna say a new ha. You gonna say it. It's 3 syllables. It rhymes with aloha. You're gonna get it right.
Yeah, mine is really hard. Like
No, it's
people
not.
see it and it looks like Guzik.
Guzik.
It's Polish Guzik, but Guzik. You don't have to say Guzik.
Oh, I love it. Guzik. It sounds sexy. You should say your name like this.
I think it means button, but I'm not 100% sure.
Buttons can be sexy, right?
Yeah, when you unbutton them.
Yeah.
Never expected our conversation to go this way, but I like it.
It's a Trill NBA show. I got ADHD.
I love it.
We're game. We're all game. Now, Chris might take all of that out. It's great, but we'll stay focused. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the last segment, I talk about the most important thing, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But first, help me.
Okay, let's do it.
So here's the deal. I am looking for a senior leader role. So that's part of the problem. So not only am I trying to transition from food to entertainment, and I would love to have like a VP of audio. I've seen those roles. I applied. I got passed over because I don't have entertainment experience, even though the headhunter was like, you'd be perfect because I have business experience. And I also understand the world of audio because I've been doing this podcast for 7 years now. So, but no, it's fine. I was about to call out the company, but I'm like, okay, I might want to work with them one day.
Keep it on the deal.
Yeah. But yeah, I've tried to no avail. And so what advice do you, because I realized I need to get my networking game up.
Yes. So with networking, I like to get messy and plant a lot of seeds because I think about it as you're going to plant a lot and you don't know which one is going to become a tree or going to like become something. And so I would just start with the people that I already know and know me and making sure that I'm catching up with them, that I know what they're up to and any opportunities around them and that they know what I'm up to. Again, it's not always going to directly lead to something, but you're putting seeds out there. And then I would try to find my way to a conversation with someone who has the role that I want for learning purposes, not to try to land anything, but more informational. So if you can find a connection, a second degree connection, maybe someone you know knows them, that's usually the easiest way. But also sometimes you don't know anyone who's connected to that kind of role. And it's just a question of making the ask and showing a lot of appreciation and like gratitude in advance, which I'm sure you know how to do. You coach people on this all the time. And then I think I like to get hyper creative when you're positioning yourself for something different. And sometimes I will kind of take my brain to a place of like, I'm not a non-fit for this role. I am a fit for this role.
Yes.
And how would I describe myself if I already was, right? So like maybe for you, it's like, how do I start leading with all of my podcast experience? Like, would my corporate experience maybe recede behind that, right? Or like, can I find creative stories or beats in terms of what I've done in the prior experience that can now plug into this? Because like you can sometimes find connections if you get more creative and then your story starts getting stronger and stronger. And then I would say give it time. When you're making these industry switches, some of them you can land it and then some of them have to happen in phases, right? So the goal is to either try to land it or figure out what the next transitional bridge phase has to be to get you in there. Sometimes with people, I'll say find a company you're so excited about get the role there that you're a shoo-in for and make the switch inside the company if that feels good to you, because that's so easy compared to going in from the outside.
I love how you just said, if that feels good to you.
Yes.
I think that's so important. And I have been working on doing things that feel good to me. So I appreciate you for saying that. I feel like that was a God wink.
Ooh, is there a particular kind of part of your life or your career where that's really present for you?
I think right now, as I am in this space of trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, and in this space, right? So like, I know at the end of the day, eventually I want to have a media company and I want to tell stories of all the brown people of the world. So the African diaspora, Indian people, the Aborigines, the darker Asian people who live in like Indonesia, right? All these melanated people who go through a very similar vein of experience of oppression, because there's this insidious idea that your skin color somehow means something, which is just silly when you think about how our bodies operate, when you think through the mechanics of, on a cellular level, how we come to be. It's all really the same.
Yeah.
And gene expression happens because of environmental factors over time, where our bodies are trying to make sure we procreate and survive generationally. But now we're going to take that beautiful mechanism and use it against each other. It's the weirdest thing.
It's sad.
We're weird. Humans
We
are
are.
weird. You know what's so funny? ADHD moment. I had an appointment with my therapist last night, and I said, that's weird. And she said, no, it's sad. And I'm like, oh, is that what Black people mean when they say that's weird? Do we really mean sad? I'm going to have to investigate that.
I think, yeah, I definitely relate to like using weird as a buffer against the sadness that can sometimes feel really overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
when you really think about it and feel it, it can feel really devastating.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easier to like compartmentalize and be like, ugh. Weird.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing. I'm surviving over here.
Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. And so I love exactly what you said. I feel like I just needed that validation. I am doing all those things. So I feel really good.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing that. Yes. If you saw my resume, you would see like the way I have my resume laid out. It's an executive formatted resume. I had my resume guru, shout out to Nichelle Evans. She did my resume and made me sing. And all my podcast experience is at the forefront because I am trying to switch into audio. I'm trying to look for roles at, iHeart, Spotify, all these different places. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I'm also trying to figure out how to turn this into an actual TV show.
So cool.
So if I'm ever on TV, you have to come back.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. And
so, yeah.
You're being pulled, I think, closer in the direction of what's exciting to you. Now it's coming out in your job search.
Yeah. I want to marry my passion to my purpose, and hopefully I can make that profitable.
I mean, my thoughts is it's only ever just like a matter of time and like willingness to face obstacles. And when both of those are in place, like, of course you can.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. A willingness to face obstacles. I think we struggle with that as humans.
Yes.
Because it's scary.
Yeah. And I think we have like some obstacles that we're okay with. And we're like, okay, I'll deal with that. Mm-hmm. But then we have these others where we're like, no, we'll not do that.
Right.
And I feel like when you're making a career change, you have to kind of face the ones in that second category sometimes. And I think that's why it can feel overwhelming and hard. And that's why sometimes people don't make the change that they want to, because that process can be overwhelming.
I feel very overwhelmed right now. It is overwhelming. And then also, I interviewed with the company. As of right now, I don't know what happened. Like, I thought I had it was so much like dating. I thought I had a great time on our date/interview. And I, let him know I would love to see him again. And he was like, yeah. And we'll talk soon. That literally was the end of the email. We'll talk soon. I'm like, oh, we're going to talk soon.
Wait, how long has it been?
almost 2 weeks.
Oh, man. Okay.
No, it's been 15 days.
Okay. That's a good chunk of time.
It's a good chunk of time. No.
No?
So this is where and I'm probably wrong. You
well,
tell
there's
me
no
if I'm
right
wrong.
or wrong, I don't think.
Probably. But I like to treat it like dating. So what I do is I start trying to talk to other companies. So I try to go on more dates, i.e. interviews. Because, I mean, you don't understand. Don't you see all this?
Yes. So this is where people should take your advice and not mine, because I'm bad at dating. And when I met my partner, I stalked him, but he knew I was basically, I didn't know that on the dating site I was on, you could see if someone looked at your profile. So I was like looking at his profile like every 5 minutes, and he could see that. And somehow we're still together to this day, but I'm just like not good at dating. I come on a little strong.
But you have a man. Like, I'm not good at dating, and I don't have a man. So
I found one who wasn't weirded out. But it's just funny because like you're like being so thoughtful about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, like this is the part of me where I just get like really forward and like really intense and need to chill out.
No, but you have a man and I don't. So the proof is in the pudding. Listen, when you leave here, I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to send the HR person an email like, hey, just want to check in, see how you guys are doing. I'll do that. I'll get ChatGPT to write it.
Perfect. Take some of the pain out of it. I feel companies should be a bit faster. I don't like the way that they treat candidates sometimes with all of this waiting. Like, would you do that for a business partner? You know what I mean? You never would. So it's like treat everyone the same.
Yeah, but also one thing that might be happening, and so I try to also think through this organization, they have a huge conference.
Oh, they might be slammed.
Yes. And so I was hoping that they would hire before the conference. That was my hope. But it might be, that we're underwater right now. We got less than a month. We got to buckle down. I ain't got time to be trying to interview folks.
Fair enough.
But I wrote in my thank you letter to the hiring manager. I was like, hey, this would be my 90-day plan. I'd go to the conference, blah, 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 blah. So I was trying to plant that seed.
Yeah.
I kind of really want this job.
I hope it works out.
I always pray about it. That's what I tell people all the time. Pray about it. I always say, God, if it's for me, make it plain, make it easy. And everything had been easy. Like, it came to me through my network. They were like, hey, would you be interested in, or no, it was, do you know somebody that would be interested in this? And the idea that I wouldn't be because it's a nonprofit. And I was like, wait a minute, me.
That's amazing.
Right. So that's how this all started. So I was like, well, that was easy. So I try to pay attention to that because sometimes if it just flows to you, it is the next right thing. And it would make sense for what they do, what I'm passionate about, diversity, inclusion, all those things. So like, it would be a great opportunity, but it might not be mine. And that's okay. Because I was talking to my trainer recently and she was like, God has 3 answers. She said, I got this off TikTok. And I was like, everything's on TikTok. But she's like, God has 3 answers. It's either yes, not yet, or I have something better for you.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we need to approach our careers. And that's how I'm approaching this time, even though my bank account is like, what are we doing? And I'm like, just don't go negative. We'll be fine.
It is really scary. And it's interesting that this space that you have is connecting you to what you want. Mm-hmm. So part of me is like, well, that in a way is its own form of a blessing, because sometimes when we're just in that same place, there's nothing that has us like stepping back to be like, can I honor my desires even more? Yeah. And it sounds like you're going through some of that.
I am. I really, really am. I'm like, okay, God. I'm in also a space of trying to love myself and figuring out self-love and self-worth. I mean, in corporate, most of the bulk of my 30s, I'm 45 now. I know I don't look it. It's okay. But for the past 15 years, I was so focused on career. And then my mom and my grandma, my mom passed away in 2015. So then after that, it's the mourning process because they were my heartbeats. They were my life. They were everything to me. And so when my mom passed, I was just kind of like, I don't know why I'm here. And so it's just been this journey of trying to figure it out. I've brought all these people along, and now here we are again. Had an episode like laid off again because they were with me when I got laid off from Coke. They were with me when I got laid off from PepsiCo. Like, I've been laid off a number of times, and now it's just par for the course. I feel like I'm like, oh, this is how this works. You know, it's part of the game, and it's okay. And I've always come out better. I've never taken a pay cut. Would you take a pay cut?
I took one when I went from tech to outside of tech.
Okay, that's a hard one, right? Because tech pays crazy.
It does. And that was actually a salary negotiation where I learned an important lesson, which was to hold my ground. Because things were getting questionable in terms of how the package was being presented to me. And I was trying to explain the math to the recruiter, and they weren't understanding it. So things were stalling out. And I'm like, I should have pushed harder. Like, it's not my fault that they didn't understand.
Right.
But there's that fear, like, you don't want them to think that you're too pushy, right? Asking for too much. But I took not a huge pay cut, but I have taken a pay cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I don't want to take a pay cut. And I don't think I'll have to.
I think you definitely shouldn't. I mean, I think job changes are like the biggest place to bump your pay up and correct if you're underpaid.
Exactly.
And I will tell you, from what I'm seeing with my clients, I'm seeing really high salaries. Like, I'm seeing people at like a few levels below me, like rapidly catching up to like where I was at with my director's salary. Right. Like, wait, what happened? I left corporate.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
Yeah, like, I think now the ABM's coming out now. Like, so when you graduate business school and you go into like CPG marketing, I'm seeing them making like 120 coming out. And I was like, what? And then like directors are now making like 185. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I'm not taking a title step down. So I'm going for a VP role. So now I'm like, oh, got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should be in the 200s for sure.
And so I'm like, oh, if it don't start with a 2, don't talk to me.
Yes. Plus stock, plus comp, like, and bonus. At that point, like, your stock and bonus should almost be equal to your base.
Right. Yeah.
It should be like a huge chunk of your compensation package, too.
You know what? I want you to come back and we should talk comp. Like, we should have a very candid comp conversation.
Yeah. We can like bring all our numbers.
Yes.
Like, have
all
charts.
the numbers. Yes. And like, and I'll pull from like some of my coaching clients. They're like, okay with like, just don't say my name or, right. But like, they work at different companies and tech versus non-tech. And yeah, we need to do that. Because, you know, they talk about transparency and comp, but then nobody talks numbers. And I'm like, that's BS.
I know. I'm so glad that you want to do this. I specifically recorded a podcast episode like a year ago where I was like, I'm going to tell people exactly what I was making.
Ooh,
and so many women have messaged me saying, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know those numbers were possible for me. And now I'm looking at my career completely differently. And I'm like, wow, all because I was like, scared to say this number because I was scared. I felt shame around it. Like, people would judge me. I was making too much money.
There's no such a thing. But I'm also a Capricorn and half Nigerian. There's no such a thing as too much money. I'm sorry. You're not judging me. You're judging yourself for being broke. Stop it.
Yeah.
Don't look at me because I'm out here paper chasing. Like, go listen to Juvenile.
Well, it's also, I'm sure you feel this way, but I'm like, okay, the women who listen to my podcast are kind and empathetic and they're amazing humans. I would love to see them take some of those big salaries from some of the assholes who are occupying those positions and taking home the big money. You know?
And not doing any of the work. That's the other thing. You're going to get the work out of me. I'm going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way to be. And that's most women. Like, we are trained to that honesty and all that. We're not going to sit up here and finesse and act like we're working and then delegate and all this stuff. And like, we're not going to do that. We're going to get in the trenches. We're going to, you know, roll up our sleeves. We're going to get shit done. We're going to do dope shit. So the money you pay us, we're actually going to earn it. Unlike some of these.
It's wild when you see what's out there and you see what people are getting away with and you're like, I was worrying. I was feeling like it's like this reality check moment.
Yeah. And like, even, did you see that Netflix role? They were looking for a machine learning person. Ooh. The comp, total comp, which I don't like talking total comp. The comp was 300 to 900. First of all, why you got that big of a range? Y'all want some bullshit. What? Yeah. And so people wrote articles about this. Like, they would blast it about, they took it down or something. I don't know. But it was funny because right before the LinkedIn article came out about it, my friend had sent me a note and said, should I apply for this job? And I was like, I don't trust anybody that says total comp. Mm-hmm. And I don't trust anybody that has a big range like that. That's some bullshit.
They pull such shenanigans with total comp. Yes. I once got an offer and they were like counting things in it that weren't like, that didn't have dollar value. And I was like, this is funny math. I do not like this.
Yes. I only talk about base. If you ain't talking about base, I ain't got no trouble for you. Like, you mean my base salary is going to be 300? We can talk then. But until then, you ain't got nothing to say to me. Really and truly, I want women to understand, treat these companies like the fuck boys that they are.
Yes.
And it's not that we date fuck boys. Everybody has dealt with, in their own time, in their own way, fuckery from a fuck boy. This is no different. Finesse. Know your worth. Move accordingly.
Yeah, and it's like they have the funds to pay you well.
Yes.
And if you don't ask, someone else is going to ask for it and do the same work as you and get it. And you're going to find out about it 2 years later and you're going to be really upset.
So
I think it's important to remind people that you're not doing anything altruistic by being small in your ask. Really, no one is benefiting from that. Your company is not taking that money and using it for something better.
No, they're paying Bob.
Exactly. It's going to
him, and you doing half his work and your work.
Yes, exactly.
He got your money.
I think it's a really important experience for people to have to like make an ask that they think is crazy or that they think there's no way this is in range, and hopefully at some point get a yes. Oh, sure. And then their brain breaks and they're like, oh my gosh. I don't know if you've had this. I've had clients push back and be like, this number that you're telling me feels nuts. And they're kind of like, is my coach trying to sabotage me? Then they make the ask and they get it. And they're like, thank you.
Yeah. And no, you have to push.
Yeah.
Because they're lowballing you. I always say my tell that they're at their wit's end is if they say, this is the best we can do. Like when that person comes and they like got a little bass in their voice and they're like, really, this is the best they can do. And they're like desperate because they just want to get the deal done because they don't want to start this process all over either. They want to hire you. So when they come back there, then I know, okay, that's all the money I can get. All right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I always push. Like, is this, I need 10 more. No, just go back. Try again.
Yeah. It's a good feeling knowing that you squeezed the juice, right? Like, and that feels really good. Yes. And then guess what? Like, that's your salary for the next while. So you're going to benefit from that push for a very long time.
And I want you, if you're altruistic, think about it from the standpoint of, with that extra money, who else can you help in your family, in your community? Like, you're not benefiting the people you need to serve if you don't ask.
Yes. In the early parts of my career, I wouldn't negotiate. I was scared. I was insecure. And I used to be like, I'm doing it because I'm a good person. But really, it's because I didn't want to admit to myself that I did want more money. I was just too scared. So I created this like comfy like story where I was like, I'm so altruistic. I'm not going to ask for more. And it was the biggest pile of crap ever.
Yeah, no, stop lying to yourself.
Yeah, because then you're just keeping yourself from what you want. Like the only person that suffers is you. And I think it's so important for women to be okay with wanting a lot and going after it.
Yes. And you know what got me, though? Because I know I don't sound like it right now, but I am a very humble person. And especially junior in my career, I was very scary. But what got me, I read this article in business school about the gender gap in pay. And the article was saying that part of the reason is a lot of time women just won't negotiate their salary. They get a salary, they get an offer. They're like, okay, I accept. I really want this job. And they don't even think about negotiating at all. And that was part of the problem. And so I said, that's not going to be me. And that's how this came all about. So it happened like in business school. And I was like, oh, I'm always asking for money. You're not going to gender gap pay me less. Like, I just got mad.
It's infuriating because it's a weird feeling when you find out that you could have asked for more and there was like $10K just on the table for you if you wanted it.
Yes.
But you had no idea.
I had no idea.
I was the same. I didn't negotiate.
So we just got the signal to wrap it up.
All right.
And we went a little bit off course, but before we wrap up, I do want to bring this back to networking. So one of the other things you can do, use your network to help you negotiate an offer. Like, use your network to ask, like, you go to your trusted people and say, okay, I got this offer. Like, do they have more on the table? How does this company especially if it's a big company, they have a way that they make offers. They have their style. A lot of big companies, they make you an offer, hope you accept it, but they have a pocket of money to come back to negotiate with. They operate in this way. So that's why, you never take the first offer.
Never. They literally have a range.
Yeah.
And they're offering you something at the middle or the bottom to see if you'll take it.
Right.
That's literally what's happening. You don't know the top of that range.
Exactly.
Your job is to guess at what you think it is and then ask for something above it, because whatever you ask for, they might go a little bit lower. Right. So,
yeah.
100%.
But if you network to get the job, then go back to that network when you're negotiating the offer and say, okay, how do I play this? Like, what is the protocol? Like, what do they do? Like, use your network to get the information.
Yeah. And they can give you the reality check of like, you can definitely make an ask here. Or they can say it's going to be difficult. And then you can decide, is it like worth it to go back and forth when it's going to be really tight? Anyway, like they might just be able to help you understand what's possible.
Yeah. And still always ask, no matter what they say.
Oh, yeah.
Always
for
ask.
sure.
Just ask. Because worst they're going to say is, this is our best offer. That's where you're going to end up. You're going to end up with them saying, this is our best offer. And then you're going to say, okay, cool. I'll join. Sign paper.
Yes.
Pay me. So you're going to win regardless.
Yes. And even if you get rejected, that's a win. Sometimes I will do an ask or a follow-up when I already kind of know the outcome, just because I'm like, this is going to make me stronger.
Yes. Yes. I love it. So real quick before we get out of here, what is the most important thing that you know? So think of it as Oprah's like, what I know for sure.
Okay.
About networking and working for some really large organizations.
Most important thing.
What I know for sure is that if you trust yourself and if you can build a sense of security internally, that you're capable, that you're worthy, and that you know what you're doing, that people will naturally respond to you and your work in a positive way, maybe not all of the time, but I think the more that you have your own back internally in your mind, the more effective the connections you build will become over time.
That was perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Where can people find you, Jessica?
People can find me mostly on the podcast. It's The Art of Speaking Up. I haven't been on social much lately, I'm not going to lie.
Ooh.
I know. I just feel like social media is overwhelming. But I do have an Instagram. It's also The Art of Speaking Up. Okay. But the podcast is like my center of gravity.
Okay. And if people wanted to connect with you, they can reach out to you via the podcast?
Yeah, or send me an email, jessica@theartofspeakingup.com.
Perfect.
Yeah, or send me a DM on Instagram.
Perfect. So I said boo, but y'all know I hate social media too. I'm booing myself. Like,
yeah, it's just gotten chaotic.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's not Twitter anymore. I'm still going to call it Twitter. Your mama called you Twitter. I'm going to call you Twitter.
I know.
Just calling you Twitter.
I was looking up your Twitter handle for the show notes and I was like, X.
Yeah.
This is dumb.
It's dumb. So thank you, Jessica, for coming on the show. You are just an amazing human. And I appreciate the work you're doing. And, I'm glad that your spirit has led you to help people in corporate because it's hard. It's hard. So I appreciate you. You guys, hey, listen, we both do career coaching. If you like a very straightforward but gentle approach, Jessica is your. If you need like Black mama coaching, I got you. So you can always find me at trilliumba.com/coaching if you need help or advice about a specific situation. So my real good expertise is when you need to figure out how to talk to your manager, how to navigate a PIP. Like, I really focus on those things. I don't do resumes. I don't do interview prep. I don't do anything. If you don't have a job, go holler at Jessica, because she gonna help you get a job. But I definitely love to help people wordsmith and play the chess game and figure out how to build their relationship walls. That's what I focus on. That's what I'm really good at and what I have fun with. It's the manipulations, the how to win friends and influence people. They really should pay me. I plugged this book like I wrote it. But if you need help with that, go to trilliumba.com/coaching. You can schedule a one-on-one session with me. You can also schedule a consultation if you want long-term coaching. I do have a couple packages for bundles of sessions if you have something in particular you're working through. Also, if you just have a question, comment, concern, you want to tell us about a show idea you have, like Jessica and I are going to do a show about compensation. So if there's something you want to know about comp, email me at ask@trilliumba.com. We're happy to answer your question, concern, take your feedback. We love feedback. If there's more show ideas you have for us, I would love to hear from you. If you're a Patreon member, thanks for hanging with us, rocking with us. You'll get to see the video of this podcast in the Patreon. You'll get to see Jessica. She's just so cute today. And I, of course, am rocking my Loving Me tee. It says curvy and proud. I was working on this proud thing. I'll be in the gym trying to get rid of this extra.
Working out.
Yes.
I've been going to the gym too. It's so psychologically good.
Is it?
I feel like the stress gets out of me in the gym.
That's awesome.
It doesn't feel that way for you?
No.
I think my body produces like excess, and I have to get it out somehow.
Yeah, no, I'm just sore and tired. But I just want to be able to wipe my butt when I get old. That's my goal.
Good goal. Admirable.
Yeah, that's my goal. So, hey guys, listen. You know how to reach us if you need anything. We're here to help. We want you to succeed. And that's why we do what we do. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, guys, keep it trill. The Trill MBA Show is a Fair World Corp LLC production. Executive produced by Felicia and Rose Inuha. Sound design and editing by Chris Mann with Podshaper. Theme music is Kick Push by Ryan Little. Keep it trill every day, y'all.